This is my third session with regard to verbs in the right usage of verbs because of mother tongue influence. Alright. In the first session I talked to you about the types of verbs, and then in the second session I talked to you about linking verbs, what they are and how they are used with a few examples. And today I'd like to conclude with a session on subject verb agreement, which is by itself a very big topic to be covered in a short span of time, but I will try my best to explain to you how the subject verb agreement works and how a lot of errors arise because of that, and how we can correct ourselves. And the correction process or the corrective measures can be taken by following some of the rules that I am going to give you. There are a number of examples that you can follow up, but I would like to quickly go through about 8 or 9 of these rules that exist in subject verb agreement so that you know how to use them correctly. When we talk about subject verb agreement, subjects and verbs must agree with each other, alright, in terms of number, whether it's singular or plural. Thus, if you find that the subject is in the singular form, the plural will also, the rest of the sentence, that is the verb, must also agree or move in relationship with the singular or plural form of the noun. When we talk about subject verb agreement, it is understood that subjects and verbs must agree with each other. If the subject is in the singular form, then your verb should also be used accordingly. If it is in the plural form, the verb should also vary accordingly. Alright. So, being able to find the right subject and then matching the verb with it will help you eliminate many of the errors that arise because of subject verb disagreements. Alright. This is one of the basic rules that I am going to tell you today about subject verb agreements, the general rule that exists when you talk about subject verb agreements. Alright. Now, why do we need to talk about subject verb agreements? Let me tell you that tenses with regard to verbs and subject verb agreements, these are the two major areas where most Indians make mistakes when they use English in their communication. Alright. So, let us go through this a little carefully. You may read through the rules again later on and get back to me if you have any more errors later on. So, the first basic rule regarding subject verb is a singular subject, for example, she, John, he, car, alright, takes a singular verb such as is, goes, shines after it. Whereas a plural subject takes a plural verb, plural subjects such as children, alright, books, papers, pens, pencils, these are all plural subjects which will be followed by a plural verb. So, general rule is, if you have, as I said before, I have been telling you again from the beginning, if it is a singular verb or it is a singular word, then you have a singular verb following it, or if it is a plural subject, then you have a plural verb following it. That is a basic rule about subject verb agreements. Now, let us move on to some of the rules that can apply when you have subject verb agreements. Alright. It is, you need to understand this carefully, go through it slowly before you understand how these rules apply, where I will be giving you examples. Alright. The first rule is, a subject will come before a phrase beginning with of. When you have of, alright, in a sentence, a subject will come before the word of. Alright. The key rule for understanding subjects, this is the key rule for understanding subjects. The subject will appear before of. The word of is the culprit in many, perhaps most subject verb disagreements or mistakes. Example, you have an incorrect sentence like, a bouquet of yellow roses lent color and fragrance to the room. Alright. Now, look at the correct version of the sentence. A bouquet of yellow roses lends color and fragrance to the room. Now, your subject here is the bouquet of yellow roses. Alright. What do? They lend color. That is what you are saying. They give out color of fragrance. So, here, if this is here a bouquet of roses, okay, you have of there and your subject is bouquet. You see, it comes before the word of, and therefore your subject here is a bouquet of yellow roses. Your subject here is not the yellow roses. Alright. So, therefore, a bouquet of yellow roses lends color and fragrance to the room. Rule 2, two singular subjects connected by or, either, or neither, or nor require a singular verb. Let me repeat this again. Two singular subjects connected by or, either or neither nor require a singular verb. Let's see the example. My sister or my mother is arriving by train today. My sister is arriving or my mother is arriving. So both of them are two singular subjects. Neither Jolly nor John is available. Jolly is also not available. John is also not available. So John is not available. Jolly is also not available. Alright. They are two singular subjects. Alright. The third example, either Katrina or Carrie is helping today with conference preparations. Again the same thing. They are two. Katrina and Carrie are two singular subjects and the verb also tallies along with them. Okay, neither of them is available or is helping with the conference or is helping with the conference proceedings. Now let us look at the example relating to rule 3. You have neither the plates nor the serving bowl goes on that shelf. So here you have to identify the noun. We don't have a pronoun in this sentence. There is a noun. There are plates and there is a bowl that we are talking about. Now according to rule 3, you have to identify the noun and the verb that follows it will relate to the noun that is there before the verb, and therefore neither the plates nor the serving bowl, bowl is in the singular form, and that is the word or the noun that comes before the verb goes. Okay, so therefore the right usage would be neither the plates nor the serving bowl goes on that shelf. Bowl is in the singular form and therefore the verb agrees with it. It should be goes on that shelf. In the second sentence, neither the serving bowl nor the plates go on that shelf. Here you will find that bowl and plates, these are the two nouns, but before the verb go you have a noun which is plates, and therefore the verb will relate to the word plates which is in the plural form. So plates go on that shelf. Is that clear? Okay, this rule can lead to two bumps in the road. As I said, sometimes it's confusing. For example, if one of the two sentences or more subjects are there, it could lead to this kind of an odd construction like or an awkward construction like neither she, my friends, nor I am going to the festival. Now you need to reorganize your sentence to make it meaningful. Maybe a better version of the sentence would be neither she, I, nor my friends are going to attend the festival. Is that clear? So there are some permutations, combinations which you have to do and yet maintain the subject verb relationship. Alright. Let's move on to rule 4. As a general rule, we use a plural verb with two or more subjects when they are connected by and. Alright. Example, a car and a bike are my means of transportation. So when you are having the word and, you are talking of two things, and therefore when they are in the plural form, there are two things, a car and a bike. There are two issues or two things that you are talking about, two components or two parts that you are talking about. They are is a word that you will use in the sentence. So the verb will be are and you are talking about two subjects. Alright. So you have car and a bike which are my means of transportation. So are is the verb that you will use. There are exceptions to this as well. For example, breaking and entering is against the law. Now breaking and entering, for example, you break into and enter into a bank. Okay, breaking meaning you break open the doors, you are trying to steal, there is a robbery. So this is a kind of a construction that goes together. They are not used as separate even though there is a word and that is used between them. So breaking and entering meaning you barge into, you go in forcefully. Alright, you break into a bank. Alright, so this is against, breaking into a bank is against the law. Okay, the bed and breakfast was charming. These function as one unit even though there is a word and here, and therefore it is one singular subject that you are talking about. Therefore the verb that follows it is. Alright, that is what I have been trying to tell you. Let's move on to our fifth rule, which I have broken up into part A and part B. Part A says, sometimes the subject is separated from the verb by such words as along with, as well as, besides, not, etc. These words and phrases are not part of the subject Please note that these words like along with, as well as are not part of the subject, alright. So you can ignore them in the sentence, remove them and try to find out the actual subject and link it to the rest of the sentence. Then what will happen is, if you have identified the subject by removing these words, your verb will actually relate or fall in place with the subject. Once you have identified whether it is a singular or plural form, you will be able to identify them by removing these words or these phrases. For example, the actor along with the newsman is expected shortly. Now, if I were to remove this group of words along with the newsman, what remains in my sentence? The actor is expected shortly. Only one person and he is expected shortly. So, my verb is related to my subject, the actor. That is how you should be reading this sentence. The second example also, excitement as well as fear is the cause of her shaking. What is the main cause? Excitement is the main cause of her nervousness or shakiness. Alright. Let us move on to rule 5b, which says parentheses are not part of the subject. Parentheses meaning brackets. What comes in brackets should not be considered as part of the subject. You have to take them aside, leave them aside, and then identify the subject to get your right verb. For example, John and his trusted attendant was always welcome. So you take out what is in parentheses or in brackets, and then the remaining sentence is like this: John was always welcome. So John is one person in the singular form and therefore he was welcome always. Alright. Let us move on to the next rule quickly. Rule 6 is about sentences beginning with here or there. The true subject follows the verb. In these cases, sentences which begin with here or there, the subject follows the verb. For example, there are 4 chairs to sit. Alright. There are, that is the verb that you have, 4 chairs to sit. Alright. So, the verb follows the words here, there. Alright, you identify the word are which comes after there. There are 4 chairs to sit. So, are, and what is the subject? Chairs. The subject is not there. Alright. So, chairs are in plural and therefore your verb will be in the plural form also. Here are the books. What is the subject? The books. The books are here. If you reframe the sentence, the books is the subject, are is your verb. Alright. Now, let us move on to rule 7. Use a singular verb with distances, periods of time, sums of money, etc. For example, 10 kilometers is too far to run. You should not be saying 10 kilometers are too fast to run. Okay. 5 years is the maximum duration for that investment. 5 years is the maximum time that you have for this investment. Alright. But again, look at the last sentence that I have there. 10 rupees, that is 10 rupee notes. There are 10 rupee notes which were scattered on the floor. So, there were 10 rupee notes. There could have been 10 5 rupee notes also which were scattered on the floor, which means that a number of 5 rupee notes were scattered on the floor. Is that clear? Alright. Let us move on to rule 8. With words that indicate portions such as a lot, a little, some, all, a majority. Rule 1 that I said in the first sentence is inverted here. It is reversed. So, if the noun after of is singular, we talked about the noun that comes, we could identify the subject in rule 1 before the word of. In this case, if the noun appears after of and it is in the singular form, then you use a singular verb. For example, a lot of the cake has disappeared. Alright, your subject is a cake, a lot of the cake is in the singular form, has disappeared. A third of the city is unemployed. A third of the city is in the singular form, that is the subject, the city is unemployed. A third of the population, a part of many, a third of the city is unemployed. Let us take the last example here. Some of the cakes are missing. Some is already there. What is the subject? That is the cake. The cakes are in the plural form and therefore the verb that agrees with it will be is. So, some of the cakes are missing. So, I have talked to you about some examples where you have some, is, are, or portions that are mentioned, followed by the singular verb, singular subject and the accordingly the verb that fits it, or the plural subject and the verb that agrees with it. So, I have given you examples for both. Let us move on to rule 9. With collective nouns such as group, jury, family, audience, population, etc., the verb that follows it might be singular or plural depending on the users or the writer's intention. Alright. For example, all of my family has agreed or have agreed to move out. Whichever I want to say, all of my family has agreed to move out or have agreed to move out. Most of the jury is here or are here, whichever I want to say. I am talking about the members, many of them are there. So, depending on how I want to use it, this will change. A third of the audience was not in favor. The audience generally is here in the singular form, and therefore was is a verb that will function with it. Okay? Or if I am talking about a lot of people in the audience, I am referring to them, then I can use were. So, there is a note that you have to make. I will explain this with the correct and incorrect sentence. For example, the police is deciding how they want to punish him. Okay? Careful speakers and writers would avoid assigning the singular is here and the plural they to staff in the same sentence. Okay? They cannot use is along with they. That is what we are trying to say. So, what would be the correct sentence? The police are deciding how they want to punish him. Is that clear? The last rule that we have here that we should keep in mind is the word were replaces was in sentences that express a wish or are contrary to fact. Expressing a wish or contrary to what is the truth, opposite to what is the fact or truth. For example, if Jack were here, you would be happy. Now, this is something that I wish. I wish he were here, you would have been happy. Alright. I wish it were Sunday. I am wishing that it was a Sunday. Alright. She requested that he raise his hand. Now, this is kind of a probability. I am requesting you to raise your hands. You may do it or may not do it. Alright. So, when you are relating it to a kind of wish or something that is contrary, something that does not happen, or it is opposite to a fact that exists, then you can use the last rule applies here, where the word were replaces was in these sentences. Okay. Now, let us try to recollect all the rules that we did. You can go through the rules that I have spoken to you in my video again. You can go back to them, go through the examples to understand how I used each of them, and you may follow the following link if you want to do some exercises. There are 2 exercises here which you can do, exercise 1 and 2. You can try them and also find your answers at the end of the test that you will be taking up. Try to understand the rules along with the examples that I have explained to you, which are fairly clear here, and try to do the exercise. I am sure you will be able to use subjects and verbs properly and not go in for any subject verb disagreements in your communication. Thank you.